Do they get it away? They don't have a timeout.
Oh, the Giants called a timeout.
Whoa. Whoa. Explain that.
I want to take you back to Thursday night when the New York Giants played the Philadelphia Eagles. This was such an insane ending to the first half that I had no idea how to react. I was speechless. I was stunned. I was, well, insert any adjective you want. The Eagles were going to get called for a delay of game penalty, backing them up and making it tougher for Jake Elliott to get 3 more points. And then the Giants decided to bail out the Eagles, helping out their opponent in the middle of the opponent making a mistake, and decided to call a timeout before the clock hit triple zeros, despite the fact that no one on the Eagles was set. It was an awful timeout that made no sense at all that you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And I thought for sure that this would be the worst ending to the first half by any New York team this week. There's no way the other New York metropolitan area team could have a worse ending to the first half than this, right? Well, prepare yourselves, because oh man, was I wrong. Brian Dable, you're off the hook. It was stupid, but you're off the hook, because now I introduce you to the most likely one-and-done candidate of the year and one of the worst coaches in football, Aaron Glenn.
Oh, it's a fake. They thought it was going to be a fake, and here's the fake to Paul.
All right, fake punt on 4th down. Got the first. I like the aggressiveness. Heck, you're 0-5, and you needed a yard near midfield. I can respect it. That's a big play. Now, what are you going to do after this?
Oh, they're going to run it. And there's Breece Hall just a couple of yards.
You're running the ball? You do realize there's not a lot of time left, right? You're going to run the ball on 1st down, still needing to go quite some distance to get into field goal range? Okay, I'm a bit confused, but whatever. Let's see what happens next.
Speechless, but I'm trying to figure this out.
Fields tries to avoid the rush and cannot.
And then you get sacked and you stop the clock and call a timeout? So you're trying to score on the drive after all? I don't follow any of this so far. Kind of defeats the purpose of trying the fake punt in the first place if this is what you're going to do. Because now you risk giving it back to the Broncos and you have little chance at scoring. But okay, maybe 3rd down and 4th down will make things a little bit easier to understand. I hope. Please tell me I'm right.
With very little happening, by the way. There's an over-the-middle throw for Fields. Wow. And the Brits are wondering what is happening in London. And so are the American announcers.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, I got nothing. I was dead wrong. Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before we break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're going to take a look at the mind of New York Jets head coach, Aaron Glenn. There is always one first-time head coach that looks like he has no idea what he's doing, that immediately you can tell is completely in over his head and is on the hot seat not even a couple of games into his career. It happens every year, and unfortunately for the Jets, they drew the short end of the stick with Glenn. Because my God, this man sucks. If it seems premature to call for his firing after 6 games, I honestly don't think he is, which sucks because I wanted to like the guy a lot. Heck, he's a former Jaguar. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. But he's another Jets coach in a long line of them since Rex Ryan got fired, who has talked a big game and tried to change the culture, only to make the team even worse than they were when he got there. The Jets are the only winless team in the NFL for a reason. The Jets are in line to get the #1 draft pick for a reason. And the reason, aside from the fact that Justin Fields sucks, is that they have a head coach who has no idea what he's doing. And situations like this are exactly why. So with that being said, let's take a look and why running out the clock at the end of the first half after a fake punt is a really bad idea. Why do teams go for it on fourth down when they're on their own side of the 50? If you're not in no man's land, and if you're in a spot where a failed conversion means the other team is starting with great field position, and you don't have an injured punter or something like that, where you wouldn't be able to flip the field, why do you go for it on fourth down in the first half? Excluding a situation like one where there's 5 seconds left, and you're going for it by just sending everyone deep and throwing it out of bounds, there's only one reason, and that is the fact that you want to score. You want to keep the drive alive, and you want to get points on the possession. That's why you go for it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to go for it. So you call the fake punt. You get the first down. You keep the offense on the field. Good job and good execution. Now you've got it in your midfield, and you're going to call it a day? You're not going to try and score? That defeats the entire purpose of the fake punt in the first place, because you get none of the reward and all of the risk. I don't think there was a plan here. Genuinely, I don't think there was a plan. At least with other dumb decisions that fail, there's some logic that I can follow, even if the logic sucks and I don't agree with it one bit. But what was the plan here? You run a fake punt to get the first. Then you call a timeout to stop the clock, indicating that you want as much time as possible to score with a new set of downs. You follow that up by running the football on a play that is not going to get a lot of yards and will keep the clock running, limiting your chances of scoring. Then, instead of taking it into the half at that point, because you clearly don't want to score, as evidenced by you running the ball on first down, you go quick to the line and throw, risking the possibility that the clock stops and allowing Denver, with one timeout, to potentially get the ball back. Then, on third and long, instead of taking it into the half, because your odds of getting the first aren't great at this point, you decide to call a timeout yourself, meaning that you're trying to score after all. But then, if you call the timeout on third and long, why'd you run it on first and kill all that clock for no reason? And then, you don't even go for it on fourth and short with 7 seconds left, seeing as you would get 10 yards and try a field goal and no real risk attached to it if you don't get it. What was the point of this drive? This was pointless. I feel like Aaron Glenn changed his mind on what to do 15 different times. We're going to be aggressive. Nope, we're going to be conservative. Nope, we're going to be aggressive. Now we're going to be conservative. What was the plan here? What was the thought process? Was there one? What was going on in his brain? Well, let's see what the process was, because Aaron Glenn is here to enlighten us all about what the heck happened. Maybe us mere mortals cannot understand it. So I'll defer to you, Coach. Take it away.
Tell us what happened at the end of the first half with not running a play, just letting the clock run out.
So I knew we were getting the ball back, and I think it was like 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. And at that point, we didn't know if we got the first down or not, because I know one ref was saying yes, no, and was no. So once it got the 4th down, guys, I'm not about to sit there and try to get a playoff, and they will get the ball back. And I think they had a timeout left and give them a chance to kick a field goal. I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. So let's just end the half, we get the ball back, and see if we can get a chance to score.
Yeah, no, I'm still not following the logic of the process or anything about that. If anything, I'm even more confused than I was before. And that's saying something, because if you couldn't tell, I was already pretty freaking confused. He starts off by saying that he knew the Jets were getting the ball back to start the second half, hence why he didn't want to take any chances since it was 3rd and long. It just didn't make sense to do that on a low percentage play. But then, here's the million-dollar question. Why did you call the timeout before the play? You knew you were getting the ball back, so you were fine going into the half with the way the score was. But you weren't fine with that and wanted to score yourself? At the very least, after the Justin Fields sack, if Denver called the timeout and you just decided at that point to call a draw play, and if you got the first, great. And if not, you go into the half with no harm done, seeing as Denver can't stop the clock, I get that. I understand the process there. You tried something, it didn't work, so now you're adjusting, and you're just going to go into the half with the way things were at. but you called a timeout, thereby stopping the clock. If your pass fell incomplete on third down, or Justin Fields got sacked for the 20,000th time, or the Broncos called a timeout on third down, they'd be getting the ball back, theoretically, with a chance to score. So that part of the quote makes no sense. Your logic is already off to a bad start, because if you wanted to keep it the same and not take any chances, you wouldn't have done that. And then, you said that you didn't go for it on fourth down because you didn't want to give the Broncos a chance with a short field to score and eventually kick a field goal. But I must ask you this, Coach Glenn. Do you not know how time works? Let's say you go for it there with 7 seconds left. If you get the first with an out route or something to the sideline, you stop the clock and have time for a field goal yourself. If you don't, the Broncos are not in field goal range, and they only have time for one play. Or you could call a play with 6 seconds left where the primary read is an out route or something in the flat on play action. But you also have a guy streaking down the field to the end zone. And if the flat isn't there, you just have Fields chuck it to that player out of bounds, and there's no time left for the Broncos to take over because the clock hits triple zeros. You had options here if you didn't want to give the ball back to the Broncos. You could have scored on that drive without taking that risk. It also raises the question of why you called a timeout before third down if you didn't want to give it back to the Broncos and wanted to keep things the status quo. But I digress. It also raises the question of whether or not you trust Justin Fields, because clearly you don't if this is what you're doing in this spot, but at the same time you do trust him because he's still your starting quarterback, and you chastise the media after the game because they asked the question of whether he's your QB1. And this also raises the question of if you were scared about the Broncos potentially getting the ball back with a short field and a chance to score, and you were fine going to the half with the way things were, why did you run the fake punt in the first place? If you didn't get it, the Broncos are starting in field goal range, and they have a short field to work with, which they can extend their lead with. But if you punt the ball deep, they might not do anything. You trust your defense at that point, and the Broncos have to go pretty long ways in order to get points. So it doesn't make any sense why you ran the fake punt if you were scared of the Broncos having a short field when that's what you're going to do. You get why my head hurts with this one, don't you? The point is, nothing about your logic made any sense, and I can't follow it. Even Christopher Nolan has no idea what your timeline is here, because you're saying things that contradict everything you actually did on the field. It's like if you say you're a good person and then you stab 20 people. It doesn't make sense. The logic isn't adding up. Kurt Warner was the color commentator for this game, and he was ready to swim across the pond back to America without any care if he drowned or not after this sequence. And honestly, I don't blame them one bit. I really don't. That's how befuddling and stupid this was. That's how much of a disgrace to football this game was and this sequence was. And Aaron Glenn clearly isn't cut out for this, because if your logic is making so little sense that it's hindering your team's ability to win games, and your own players, like Garrett Wilson, are lashing out at you because they have no idea what's going on, then you need to go. One and done, pack your bags, you're done. You're not the guy. You are very clearly not the guy. So what do we learn from all of this? If you're going to go for it on fourth down, then don't call the game at that point in a way that negates the entire purpose of going for it on fourth. If you're trying to score, then don't call a run up the middle with little time left. If you're trying to keep the score the way it is and not take any chances, then don't call a timeout before a third and long play, especially when the other team has a timeout in their back pocket. And don't follow it up with a passing play that has a chance at stopping the clock. Have a plan and stick to it. If you want to be aggressive, be aggressive. If you want to be conservative, then be conservative. But you can't be both. At the very least, you can't flip-flop between being aggressive and conservative on every play. Because when you do, you get the most dysfunctional drive and the most dysfunctional 2-minute drill that I've ever seen. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.